In the Old West, the vast and challenging landscapes created a whole different vibe compared to what you'd see in the eastern United States. Puritan laws didn't carry as much weight out there, and life was guided by its own rules, shaped by the need to survive. In that environment, the strict moral code that ruled more conservative regions didn't find much space, and people lived under more flexible norms, molded by a harsh and unpredictable daily life. In 1843, amid the challenges and opportunities of the Old West, an Irish American appeared who would become a key figure in opening up the region. His name was Tom Tobin. With rare skills, he served as a sharp tracker, a precise hunter, and a reliable guide, always ready to face danger and explore unknown territories. Tobin's versatility led him to work with the United States Army as a scout. In the Old West, drinking beer at whatever temperature it arrived was a common habit, very different from European practices, where it was usually served cold. By 1873, most of the beer in the towns and cities out there came from small local or regional breweries, reflecting the production and transportation conditions of the time. This setting influenced how people enjoyed the drink, making it an important part of daily life and the stories told in taverns and saloons. Oglala Chief Red Cloud appears wearing his ceremonial headdress, a profound symbol of his people's spiritual heritage. Next to him, American Horse is dressed in Western clothes and has a gun in his holster. This mix of traditional elements and outside influences reveals a moment of transition, when Native communities had to reconcile ancestral customs with the reality brought about by the settlers' expansion. In the Old West, the search for sustenance began with water, but hunting soon proved essential for feeding pioneer families. Over time, settlers developed techniques to track and take down animals, using everything the land provided. This mastery of natural resources became an essential part of the local culture, ensuring that entire communities could grow and establish themselves in a frequently challenging environment. In the late 19th century, daily life in the West unfolded amid deep transformations. The urban scene was expanding with railroads and new industries, while traditional habits and customs held their ground against change. In this context, one figure stood out in a special way: the cowboy. These cattle herders traveled across wide plains, driving herds and ensuring a steady supply of beef for various markets, both in America and elsewhere. Since the earliest days of humanity, the idea of a remedy that could fix any problem has always drawn attention. During the Old West, this hope showed up in bottles labeled as miracle cures, sold as the answer for all kinds of ailments. The sellers claimed the concoction warded off serious illnesses, protected against bad luck, and even offered relief from low spirits. Across the endless plains of the Old West, water always dictated the course of communities. Even before the territory was annexed by the United States, this scarce resource carved the paths of those who ventured there. Wherever a river or a well appeared, a settlement would pop up, and every drop became a reason for tension or cooperation. Local groups, often rivals, ended up joining forces in the name of survival. In the 19th century, California became the destination for thousands of people drawn by the promise of wealth. The gold rush didn't just bring in miners and settlers looking for opportunities. It also sparked a lively social scene. In saloons and dance halls, where excitement and anticipation ran high, poker found its place as one of the main forms of entertainment. The presence of adventurers from different parts of the country created a fascinating mix of accents and life stories. Early on, Killer Jim Miller managed to come across as an upstanding citizen of the Old West. He carried out his duties without arousing suspicion, showing a behavior that impressed everyone around him. No one imagined that behind this spotless image was a man capable of brutal crimes with no pity at all. When the news of gold in California spread, crowds left their homes to try their luck out west. Each traveler carried the hope of a better life, embracing the uncertainty of the journey. Between tough trails and promises of wealth, they kept going, fueled by the hope of finding that precious metal that would change everything around them. The gold fever stayed alive in every step, reinforcing their determination to face the unknown and chase the dream that drove so many restless hearts. Back in the days of the Old West, barbershops were about more than just cutting hair and trimming beards. In regions where doctors and hospitals were scarce, barbers also served as surgeons and medicine makers. This combination of roles emerged in a time when medical knowledge was still poorly defined, leading communities to rely on barbers for procedures that went far beyond simple grooming. Throughout the long journeys in the Old West, cowboys depended on basic, practical foods to keep their strength up. Beans were one of the most commonly eaten items, offering sustenance and easy cooking in different conditions. Hard biscuits also made the menu, handy for quickly satisfying hunger. Jerky provided protein, while dried fruit offered a rare sweet touch and helped replenish nutrients. Cattle branding has roots that stretch across continents and centuries. It began in Egypt around 2700 BC as a way to identify animals and protect herds. Over time, the practice reached Europe during the Middle Ages, where it became an important part of cattle raising. Later, it crossed the Atlantic with Spanish cowboys, and was eventually adopted by Mexicans who explored the southwestern part of what is now the United States. When gold was discovered in California, the demand for mail services shot up. Miners, entrepreneurs, and pioneers went west, drawn by the possibility of getting rich and building new opportunities. This created an urgent need to stay in touch with those left behind, and to close business deals that depended on messages traveling over great distances. Living on the Old West frontier took courage and persistence. Families faced harsh land, unpredictable weather, and limited resources, with little support beyond their own willpower. Each day brought essential tasks to secure food, shelter, and safety. In this world, even children started taking on important responsibilities from a very young age, helping out in the fields or looking after animals, often before they even turned 5. By the late 19th century, the American West saw the rise of an activity that powered the railroads and fed expanding markets: buffalo hunting. These animals, mainly hunted for their valuable hides, were brought in large numbers to the city of Leavenworth in Kansas. There, merchants and hunters made high-volume deals, processing and distributing the hides to meet growing demand. Clay Allison lived during a time when the Old West commanded both respect and fear. Unlike other men who gained fame with firearms, he refused to be labeled simply as a gunfighter. He preferred to be known as a marksman, someone with true mastery over the six-shooter. This careful approach to every shot, marked by technique and concentration, turned Allison into a benchmark when it came to trigger precision. In 1680, the United Pueblo tribes rose up in a revolt that changed the course of history by driving the Spanish colonizers out of New Mexico. In doing so, the natives not only won back their lands, but also captured thousands of horses and other animals belonging to the Spanish. From that moment on, an equine culture blossomed among the Plains peoples, transforming their daily lives, their hunting methods, and the way they related to the land itself. During the westward expansion, many pioneers and ranch hands crossed unfamiliar territories in search of opportunities. On that journey, coffee became an essential part of their daily routines. Among them were cowboys, who found in the drink the energy needed to take on their everyday challenges. In that sense, coffee wasn't just about taste. It was a crucial ally for keeping spirits up and pushing through the long travels and tough tasks. Roy Bean was born around 1825 in Mason County, Kentucky, and showed a love for adventure early on. At 15, he decided to leave home and follow his two older brothers west, where every day promised new challenges and chances. Moving from one region to another, he took on various jobs and lived a nomadic life, setting out on a journey marked by a constant search for something new. The art of handling a lasso runs deep in ranching tradition, taking shape when Spanish conquerors brought their techniques to the American West around the 18th century. At the time, Spanish ranchers and their Mexican workers, known as vaqueros, worked closely with Texan cowboys. That meeting of minds led to exchanges of knowledge that shaped how cattle were caught and controlled, leaving a cultural legacy that's still alive today. The Old West holds a strong fascination in American culture, especially in the Midwest, where its legacy lives on in festivals, traditions, and stories passed down through the generations. This era, immortalized in books and movies, cemented a collective imagination brimming with daring journeys and challenging settings. Every scene portrayed in fiction reflects the courage and persistence of pioneers who opened up frontiers, overcoming obstacles to build new homes and establish communities. Amid an Old West full of famous figures comes the story of Anna Emmeline McDoulet, known as Cattle Annie. She got into crime early, teaming up with Jenny Stevens, better known as Little Britches. Even though they were just teenagers, the two got involved in bank robberies and worked side by side with outlaw groups, ending up on the authorities' most wanted lists and in conversations around saloons and taverns. Before gold was discovered near what's now Denver in 1858, Colorado grew at a moderate pace, without an urgent need for railroads. But everything changed when word spread about that precious metal. The gold rush drew adventurers, merchants, and investors, sparking an immediate need for efficient transportation. In that scenario, railroads became the critical link that connected mining areas to main distribution centers. Almost 2 centuries ago, a force was born in Texas with the mission of protecting settlements and keeping order in a territory full of challenges. The Texas Rangers didn't just watch the borders. They took part in conflicts and risked their lives to defend settlers against local threats and invaders. Their commitment turned the group into a symbol of persistence and determination in shaping Texan identity. If you enjoyed this trip to the past, subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts and find out what else you'd like to learn about topics like this.